No one knows. No one knows. We all woke up in a upside down, turning inside out, like we've all been led astray. We've been standing on the outside in, trying to find our friends, like we're all just castaways. Feel like we've been missing out.
Hey folks, welcome to another video with Rikileaks. How you doing? I'm Rick.
I'm Lexi.
And we're going to bring you another lovely presentation today about the series of 7.
Yes, this is our second installment in the series of 7, and it's been about a month and a half in the making because it's going to be a special series of 7. In the instance, we are going to be combining 4 different movies into one commentary.
Lots to do there.
Yes, it seems like a lot, but it's really not, because to me, when we were like brainstorming, we were watching these movies every night, and I was making my notes, and I realized they're all the same movie, exactly the same. And that's how you make blockbusters and make the big bucks, is to maybe recycle some of the same ideas. Now, this kind of goes further than just, of course, every video or every storyline movie follows the hero's journey. And yes, totally, there's a hero's journey in all the stories, all the good stories that make the history that we know of literature. But these storylines and these plot lines are very similar to each other. So today we are going to be covering Matrix, Dune, Avatar, and Prometheus.
Nice.
Yes.
Yep. 4 movies for you guys. We got a nice presentation. You ready to get started?
Let's get started.
All right, folks, give me 1 second here.
Look at that. That's beautiful.
Boom.
Series of 7. Hero's journey or a reflection. Again, I don't know if this is just similarities, coincidences, or literally the same story being told because there's a bigger picture or a reason, predictive programming perhaps, behind being told the story. The first topic I want to cover is a shared theme, numero uno, and that is unethical mining.
Yes, there's unethical mining as a theme in both. Well, I was primarily thinking about when you're looking at this Avatar, just because the excavating machines, but with humans as a literal source of power, not only spiritually but physically. We see that in the Matrix and in Avatar as well.
Yes, thank you. So Avatar has unobtainium as their material they're mining. The name itself kind of tells you it's unobtainable and is really, really expensive for a tiny amount. And this amount is only on a moon of a planet. So the humans in that one go to the moon and start harvesting. They're not the ones being harvested. And then with Dune, we have spice, and that's going to be worms off gas being harvested, but in a weird way, shape, and form, the humans or the beings that are on sharing the planet Dune, I believe it's actually a moon as well. I have to double check that.
I think it's a planet. No, I think Arrakis in Dune
planet?
is a planet. Yeah, it's a desert planet, and that's where all the worms live.
Okay, but in that same instance, because the worms are being harvested and enslaved, the humanoids on that planet, you could say, are also being enslaved in the same way.
And quick nerd disclosure, yes, we know unobtainium is not a real element and is just a sci-fi stand-in word for any sort of element or anything to drive the plot. But yes, but the fact still remains that I think humans intrinsically, or just any species in general, can be seen as nefarious for stripping a world of its natural resources only to use it for their own selfish gains, for whatever machines or space travel they seem to use it for. That's kind of the main theme there, is just this mining of a naturally occurring resource that in the wake of the mining, you destroy other life forms and their way of life. And that's not good.
Exactly. And it's also important. It's funny because we have humans and like this black goo parasite or robotic parasite aspect with Matrix and Dune. But the funny thing is that in Avatar, the parasites are actually humans. So I always joke around like worms are parasites, but it matters who is doing the act of parasitism, the sucking of the life force. And in Avatar's case, it is humans. So another honorable mention is for, oh goodness, Prometheus. This is where the worms kind of turn into a metallic matter, and then humans are at a disadvantage again, but in a really weird way. It's kind of an origin story that is what is the movie? Alien.
Prometheus.
So Prometheus is a prequel.
Yes, that's what you were saying. Yeah, that's always kind of the complicated bit in that story. But yeah, Prometheus is like a prequel to the story of the Alien story by Ridley Scott.
Yes, and oh goodness, it gets into a lot. Basically, this progenitor race, these tall giant, are they perfect humans or are they something that made humans? I like to see them as de-evolved humans, because basically you have this element that they were mining a planet and either harvesting black goo from that planet, or they actually made this black goo, which is like a bioweapon on the planet. We don't know exactly, because we're just making, even the researchers on the video describe that we don't necessarily know if the progenitors were, if this black goo was naturally found on the planet, or if they brought it to the planet and the planet was kind of like a huge lab. Since it is, we find it in a runes state. We don't really know the full story, but it's very interesting. And we do have a manufacturing and using a harvesting event on a planet. So, okay. Shared theme number 2. Followed something to find either enslavement or oppression seems to be the call to action moment for all of these videos.
Yes. So, I mean, even in the Matrix, you had Neo, who was kind of brought to the door, so to speak, by a loud knock, as he was handing off some of his criminal programming assets. And he had a dream the night before, and he would have otherwise stayed inside his apartment, but he was drawn to go to this club because there was a woman with a white rabbit tattoo, after he had just been notified from Morpheus in the Matrix to follow the white rabbit. And he would have never have done that otherwise. And even inside of Prometheus, you have themes of enslavement, where you get into these astronauts who seem to be on the forefront of human discovery, but they're really kind of being played by this overreaching Wayland Yutani Corporation. He really has his own selfish desires, and he's going to basically betray these researchers who kind of were on a one-way trip, so to speak, to this far off galaxy to go find their savior. So there's a lot to this about how we're really, are our motives truly our own, or are we guided by others? And are those other people always benevolent, or are they malevolent? And how do we know that we're not just to break free of their control? That is a very good one. And what I think of in modern day is there are, I think around 2016 through 2018, there were definitely gurus of truth that spoke, and there were different podcasts that people would listen to. And nowadays, you wouldn't necessarily say that you listen to any of those people, because we know now that they might be nefariously funded and being spreaders of 90% truths. And the dangers of that is that there is 10% of lies or deception in those truths. And it's so interesting, because if it wasn't for some of these early podcasters for the truther movement, we wouldn't be awake. So I always tell truthers, like, don't be mad at the early people that we learned some of the greatest awakening red pills from, because they still did their job, even though, sure, whatever, we can say they're disinfo agents, but they also still woke up a lot of people, regardless if they were their true intentions or their funding of nefarious. Right.
Call to action for Avatar. Now, literally in my head, it's him, Jake Sully, being told to be the security detail for a scientific research mission. And it's, to me, when he wanders off and he's letting his curiosity roam, and he literally is in a very dangerous jungle and starts playing with pretty flowers and immediately gets separated from his group, which it's a way to get him to see a possible different version of the same planet he's been on. So now he has to survive for the first time, and we meet his counterpart basically because of this accident. And we think it's an accident, but there is a spiritual significance that saves his life, which gets him in the door to the Na'vi people. And this will basically take him on his awakening journey, but his call to action there, we do find out that the people that he works for is wrongly oppressing the planet because they're mining. They're unethically mining this planet, and it's about to get really bad as far as the humans' involvement in the mining. They're going to bring down this earth, or this tree, which is basically a town that these people live in. So it is an infiltrator mission, but he quickly realizes he's working for the wrong team. So it's early enslavement or early oppression. We're basically trying to fight the problem before it happens.
Correct. And then in Dune, it's Paul Atreides, who's the young son of this. We were not going to go too far into that, but Paul was forced to go to this planet at the Emperor's beckoning, or his family was rather, and he's through a long story becomes, the sole messiah essentially for the people on Arrakis, and ends up completely turning the entire story around. So it's, what do you got?
Point. He doesn't know that he's going to be, Paul doesn't wake up knowing that he fits all of these markers. So there is an oracle aspect to kind of all of the movies. Yeah, there is an oracle, kind of a spiritual guidance in a way, and unbeknownst to the character, unbeknownst to, the representation of humanity, there's always this underlying supernatural force that I think maybe Matrix is a good representation of that, because literally the oracle in that movie is talking about, there's decisions and actions that you've already made. Now it's time for you to understand those actions. And Neo and the audience are kind of left in a state of, well, what does that really mean? And it's, do I have free will, or do I have control of my future? And a lot of it is, you're going to find yourselves in situations that require courage, or that require you to make a sacrifice. But up until then, it will be up to you. You have that free choice. You've already made that choice inside your heart. You just have to live and understand what the decisions that you make. That's beautiful. It's very true. I'm trying to see how that goes with the other the other movies. Very interesting. So Oracle on Avatar, the mother, the high priestess of the Na'vi tribe, she basically gets a DNA sample of Jake Sully, and she can see his future, and she can see that he might be this savior figure later on, or whatever the case is. So it was her that allowed to be able to see into his something further than the audience sees, either an auric field and a fate. Which is kind of interesting that she was able to do that. Now that you brought that up, that was technically a synthetic Na'vi body with his DNA, and she was able to pluck blood from it and still retain like his real human DNA mixed with the synthetic DNA of the Na'vi crazy. That he was in, and still be able to see that. Yes, very interesting. Yes, and what I just realized, we just did a episode on Journey to Truth covering witches and the history of witchcraft, and before we started calling them witches, there were women that could tell the future and everything. And one of those instances or stories is the Oracle of Delphi. And the Oracle of Delphi are these beautiful women who were taken from the villages, the most pure, innocent, beautiful women. And they were held like on Mount Olympus. And there was a huge serpent called a Phi. And this Phi released gases, and when these beautiful oracle women breathed in the gases, their body was taken over, and they were given military knowledge and strategy. They were given future events unfolding. They were given all these special messages to relay to whoever enslaved these oracles or whoever they gave their information to. So that reminds me very much of, since we're talking about Dune, their material that is being mined is spice, which is a gas released from a big worm. And if it's used correctly, it could extend life and you could get euphoric understanding of the universe, and it can unlock a lot of things. And then if you use it incorrectly, or another way to use it is to meld time and space and create wormholes. Funny take on the word worm, and basically travel through space, but without having to move. You basically just bend time like sheets. So that's very interesting.
Nice.
I know.
So yeah, lots of not dying, lots of not visible. I think even then, even though that's humorous, the resurrection aspect and all of these films where it's almost uncanny, even if you kind of want to throw an honorable mention to Harry Potter as well.
Oh, that's a whole movie on it. Or we're going to be covering that later on this week. I think that's our next video. But the death and resurrection process, and of course, if you tell a cynic about this, they're like, duh. Of course, on the hero's journey, there's a death and resurrection step anyway, so you're going to have that in every movie. But I do want to cover the main points with these movies we're going over and what their not dying process looked like. And Avatar we just watched, and I was very interested to notice that the very first scene of Avatar is when the very first scene of Jake Sully is him opening his eyes as a human.
Yes, he's opening his eyes. We see it. It's kind of foreshadowing in the first part of the movie, but it ties directly into his resurrection at the end. Yes,
and Dark Nights of the Soul are basically mini awakenings, one after another, and it's not just one huge awakening in current times when people talk about awakenings. So in this movie alone, there's a couple times that like Jake Sully could have died, but didn't. He was spared by either Awa, the spiritual leader of the planet, or the spiritual presence of the planet, and basically his own courage. And also he is in a couple different bodies. He has a human body, which doesn't make it to the end of the movie. And then he has a hybrid body, which is half human, half these humanoids. So again, it's not just humans against these aliens. There are hybrid creatures. There's like 3 aspects at play. He dies a bunch of times, Neo, because the new movie.
Sorry, guys.
Okay. Neo, in the very first one, the Oracle told him like it's either going to be you or what's his name? Morpheus.
Right. Yeah, she was explaining that 2 different characters were, again, this goes into the choices they had to make, that he was going to have to make a choice whether he was going to live or die. And of course, not what he thought. It was kind of a riddle, a bit of a play on words, and he ends up getting killed, but then he resurrects himself within the matrix, knowing that it is just a simulation. His body's able to reproduce itself and basically keep on. They don't really touch on it, but that's the notable instance there.
Yes. The new movie that's coming out, I believe, is like called Resurrection.
Yes. And I'm not sure what that really has to do. I haven't seen it. I'm trying to keep myself completely sober of those trailers or anything like that.
I haven't seen them. I just saw quick pictures.
Dune, he's really put into a lot of instances where people who, we hear this a lot in hero stories, but where the average man was not supposed to live through some of their trials. And that's kind of what happens with Paul Atreides throughout the entire movie. He's able to survive these circumstances of spiritual trials, assassinations, kind of, being completely abandoned, where everyone else under any other circumstance would fail, but he's able to overcome it and become, or really just discovered the true nature of his internal power that he had no idea of the entire movie, but he was able to go through these trials and maintain his integrity and his principle, and he found his power at the end.
Yes. I want him to be an alarm clock.
Oh yeah, I know. The sleeper has awakened.
Oh my God.
You can make one.
I know, right? Oh, okay. I wanted to quickly touch on this idea of oracles. Earlier, we talked about oracles. The most famous oracles, probably in our history, are the three fates. They're described as women who were in charge of this wire, this line, this hair per se. And they had the ability to cut this hair thread like substance. And when a thread like hair was cut for an individual, that was the end of their life. So they can control lifespans, basically. They hopefully most renditions and telling of their story made them seem unbiased. They didn't necessarily get to choose to when to cut the hair. They were told when to cut the hair. They were just the ones who actually did the act. And why that could be a really good segue to the next part of this, these shared themes for the movie is what we know today is DNA modification is basically capping threads. And how you could do that is I will enter in right now some slides of another video that Rikileaks Biohacking channel did that covers antigens being parasitic proteins that are left on our DNA, which cap our DNA after being sick, really, really sick. We get these antigens. These antigens will show up on our blood. And if you have like A positive blood, you are positive of antigens. So basically, the problem with antigens is, yes, they do save our lives. It's a beauty of our God-made vessel to me. That proves that we have an immune system, it's a wonderful, wonderful defense mechanism. However, in the long run, what we have to worry about with antigens is wherever an antigen did cap our DNA is also that part of the DNA has more junk DNA. It's locked junk DNA. So what people are realizing is there might be oxidizers out there. A lot of these parasite cleanses and biohacking channels explain basically how we remove parasitic spike proteins, which an antigen is. So if you start unlocking these, then the idea is that DNA itself from our ancestors for the first time in generations will unlock as well. So that goes into coding and DNA being a shared theme in all these movies.
Yeah, genetics research in these movies is a huge influence, not only just to drive the plot, but we also have to just look at these prevalent terms. Again, it's always tying back to our genetics and what's inside of us, what that really means. It's not just inside of our internal, spaces within our body or our body cavities. It's literally the molecular structures of what make up the body, the human body. And that's so much more than what people really realize. Mm-hmm. And I think if we spent more time understanding those, again, they're not so complex biochemical, organic structures and processes happening within us, we'll be able to be more proficient at those processes. Our body will be able to perform them easier if we can visualize them, if we know that they exist or that they're ongoing. Even just simple things like the breaking down of amino acids or how our body produces, blood cells. It's all how oxygen is transported, the simple things, right? If we had more knowledge about that, I think we'd be a lot better off.
We really would be. And the problem is if we're not understanding of it, it can be used against us because some people do understand it very well. Bill Gates. Okay. Oh, I wanted you to read this because this is the genetics that they do on Dune. And I think it is interesting. I didn't get it too much in the movie, so I wanted to see what their explanation was.
So this is some genetics breeding programs from the Dune universe. So although they took millennia to run and were highly susceptible to outside forces, breeding programs were seen by many as a more socially acceptable methods of manipulating a human's evolution. The Bene Gesserit were the undeniable masters of this form of genetic manipulation, having sought for over 10,000 years to create and control the Khazwat Hagrach. I butchered that. Through careful analysis and record keeping, their goal was realized in Paul Atreides. However, the ultimate outcome proved much more complicated, and thanks to the rebellious actions of a few individuals, most notably Paul's mother, Jessica, their program had several unwanted major repercussions. And what they're talking about here is this group of supernatural, for, again, layman's terms, space witches. They were using selective breeding through these bloodlines through tens of thousands of years to create their spiritual perfect being called the Kawasat Hadrash. Oh my gosh, I tried it again, didn't work. But they realize it almost incidentally through Paul Atreides, the main character of Dune. So they've been, this was like a 10,000 year plan that, again, we see this in our own reality with some very nefarious groups, especially these globalistic groups, where it's not just a today and tomorrow type of plan. These actions occur over hundreds of thousands of years on purpose by design, so they are undetectable, so that you're making moves hundreds of years in the future or hundreds of years in the past that influence where people are now. And it's all by design. And that kind of ties back to what we said at the beginning of the video, is how much of what we're doing in the paths that we walk, are they our own by design truly, or are we walking along paths that were set there by others?
Oh, I like that. So that was breeding that was done like physically over years, but they go to the lab on the planet.
And I mean, that also, look right at the Matrix too. I mean, the machines created their own version of humans as what they thought, to live in these pods all across the planet, and never to breathe a breath of fresh air, but just to be controlled through a fake simulation. It's the same thing. I mean,
yes,
they manipulated all of human genetics at that point.
Yes.
And in Prometheus, I mean, that's how everything came about.
But we're on the worm slide. So
gotcha. There's so much.
Laboratory style genetic manipulations, such as those performed by Benny, offered much quicker returns and allowed for greater control of their subjects over breeding programs. This reminds me of the vaccine injections that all babies have to receive. Sure, there might have been a class system prior to the 1700s that you were able to track rich and wealthy families, and you were able to make the well-offs barons and lords, and you would be able to just marry between wealthy families when you have a class system. But after World War II, the class system died kind of all around the world. And how are we going to be able to, instead of doing breeding programs, epigenetics, how are we going to be able to basically still control epigenetics throughout a matrix? And that is why right after World War II, when the class system went down, we started getting these smallpox shots, and goodness knows what was in those. And slowly but surely over the next 30 to 50 years, those shots increased, and now it's up to 70 per, I think up until 2 years old, the amount a 2-year-old gets of shots is like 70 shots.
Jeez, it's way too much.
Way too much. So go over to our biohacking channel, links in the description, to learn how to reverse injection symptoms and to do it safely. So let's go on. Yes, you were talking Matrix is going to be code created AI programs, which I wanted to ask you, that came from the melding of, it's almost the hybrid of humans' consciousness and machines, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened with Neo, I guess, over, again, spoiler alert, but over many instances of the Matrix beforehand, there are these humans that have this ability to awake from their consciousness and break the simulation, but never before did they have to basically become one with the machines in order to overtake rogue programs within the Matrix itself. So that's what we see as the notable difference there. I hope that answers your question.
That does make sense. We'll go into the ending in a second. We're just talking about the way that code is being programmed, basically, and how that program can be detrimental to several different species at play on the planet or the simulation or whatever. So on Avatar, we were the aliens to the Na'vi. We created the hybrid alien species that caused Sigourney Weaver problems later.
Yeah, that's funny. In Prometheus, the same thing. We're a bit of a pre-antigen decay of DNA there was a progenitor race that, left behind their DNA into our planet, and that eventually sprawled into the human race, and we try and find where we come from. And those progenitors create an hybrid alien species that caused Sigourney Weaver a lot of problems later as well.
This is an ode to Sigourney Weaver and alien films. Kind of weird. Does she know a lot about aliens? She
probably does. She probably does. If you know, you know.
Go on. Alrighty, now let's talk about Prometheus. This is probably my 5th or 6th time trying to record this genetic explanation in the movie Prometheus. It's going to be long. It's the longest part of all the genetic processes. That's mainly what this movie is about, is going over the idea of hybridization of several different species. One not being human, one being parasitic. It starts off with humans all over the world, archaeologists and researchers all noticing that cave drawings and hieroglyphs explain these beings that are different than human, because in the little pictures there's humans and then there's these tall humanoids, and the tall humanoids like point to the stars, and they're all showing the same like star system, galaxy system, and I think it's a moon specifically that they're pointing to. So a 1%er gets enough money to do a voyage to this moon, and we don't know what's going to be on this moon. We don't know who's there. We don't know if they're still alive. We don't know anything about this location. All we know is these different humanoids and beings written a long time ago are telling us that they are probably from this sector of the galaxy on this moon. I just want to say this is interesting. This is the second moon hybridization alien project that is probably government funded for nefarious reasons, with a military presence and a scientific presence on board being commissioned to go on this project basically. And also it is taking place on a moon. I believe Avatar was on a moon, and Prometheus is also on a moon. I know in real life, Saturn, which is a lovely planet apparently, has a real life moon named Prometheus. But we are not getting that confused with real life. We are going back to Ridley Scott's fake, imaginary, completely unheard of story being told. So the humans venture off and they go to this moon. They arrive at this moon, and it is pretty cool because we don't know the aliens' language, so we're doing everything very like the audience is realizing stuff while the science research team is, and you're looking at the science research team, and they quickly find signs of distress. They quickly find an ancient technology being used. For example, they used sound frequencies to move vessels, and I think they have a little flute which actually started their technology, which is really interesting, and a really big reoccurring theme on scientific movies. Music, moving objects, basically, vessels and transportation. So we have a couple different races at play. We have the humans, the modern day humans that arrived on the world that are, 5 to 6 feet tall. You have these, they call them engineers, and the engineers are humanoid. They pretty much look like us. They have different color skin, but they are really tall and like really muscular and obviously really smart if they can play the flute that makes the little ship go up in the air. So they are a very advanced species. And then you have, I don't know if these are two separate entities. I'm a little confused about this part. So if you have any idea or a better understanding in the comments below, please correct me. Just say, no, this is what's going on. So you have black goo that is being like harvested on this planet. We're assuming it was a weapon, a biological weapon, and we're assuming it had to be done on this planet because it's kind of dangerous. So you want it like on its own planet, just in case it gets out and infects the entire planet. At least it's on a moon. I think that's what happened. There's obvious signs of a battle almost like you were having a biological weapon that got loose and got everyone sick on the planet. You see dead engineers, those tall humanoids laying around. We quickly encounter a parasite alien coming from the black goo. I don't know if that's black goo at a later form. Like, I don't know if black goo is like a baby stage of a parasite, and then as the parasites grow, they become like bigger trilobite looking things. But you have these trilobite looking things, which are going to be like bigger parasites. If you've seen the movie Alien, it looks similar to that alien that comes out of the bug, not to be mistaken for the bug on that comes out of Neo's stomach before he wakes up. You have to remove the metal bug in the stomach before you can wake up. Also, go to Rikileaks Biohacking channel to learn how to do your first parasite cleanse. Shameless plug. Anyway, back to what I was saying. There's these bugs. People are getting sick. They're getting sick of the black goo. They're getting sick. A girl gets pregnant with one of these little bugs. Not good. She gets it out of her. Thank goodness that she believes in God. She somehow stays alive throughout all this. At the very end, I don't know. There's like a lot of dying and a lot of screaming, and it's hard. It's a dark movie. So at the end, one of the trilobites gets really big, and he kind of looks exactly like same from the alien that is on Stranger Things. It looks like the thing in the Pfizer jabs. It looks like the thing on War of the Worlds. It looks like the thing kind of like a jellyfish, but like not like a jellyfish, like a kraken almost. Actually, I think we have a parasite on Earth called, I know it has the nickname, the kraken. It goes by Hydra or something. I don't know. Bunch of crazy things it looks like. Not very original. Ridley Scott, come on, I thought you were up for creativity. Anyway, the Stranger Things attacks the tall human and kills it, but also makes love to it. So then we have an offspring coming from that weird combination of death and baby making, and that is called a deacon. Deacon is going to be the hybrid animal that causes Sigourney Weaver problems later in the Alien series. Okay, I think that's the best way to describe it. Anyway, lots of things at play. Parasites are assholes, no matter if you're on Earth or on a moon of Saturn. Chlorine dioxide takes care of the bad ones. There are some good ones out there, though, I hear, and I don't think they're killed by oxygen. So yeah, keep up with your probiotics, enzymes, and antiparasitics, folk. Also, let's go back and talk more about that girl, the one character of the movie who did have faith in God. Everyone else died. So much death, all the death in the world, except for the woman who had some faith. Also, a side note, I've been doing a lot of research into the Trinity, and I noticed that in the Matrix, obviously, we have the Trinity of three separate, completely different things, separated by commas and the word and in the Matrix, those three separate things are going to be humans, robotic parasites that suck the life out of humans, and an AI intelligence. Three separate things. And here on Prometheus, yes, you have the black goo and these unhindered humanoids, which read out as 100% human match in the movie with their DNA genome. You have the new humans, which probably have some parasitic antigens on their DNA, which have made them shorter and not as technologically advanced or smart. Then you have the black goo, which is like this weird worm parasite thing. And then you have, which we almost forgot, an AI machine on the ship. So you still have worms, AI, and humans on here on Matrix, kind of sort of on Dune. Really weird. Do we have AI on Avatar? I don't think so. There's a heavy scientific presence but there's like no AI, I don't think. Am I brain farting? I don't know. Just interesting. Robots, worms, and humans. That seems to be the numerology in this series of 7. Actually, I didn't see too much or any 7s in these movies at all. It was all about the big trinity. Yeah, so very interesting point. The last bit I wanted to go over for all these shared themes and topics is how faith is portrayed and very, very important in each of the movies.
Yes, and it's a huge aspect, again, that drives the main character through this, I don't even want to call them trials, because it's like it's uncanny the amount of stress they have to go through. But in every instance, there's, again, the unseen forces are the ones that have the most impact, and just simply believing in their cause and what they're doing leads them to success in every instance. First, I mean, Avatar, he didn't even believe Jake Sully was handicapped, and he was able to completely impact the change of 2 different species intergalactically on a whole different moon, and he was able to make those changes.
That's a really good point. I like on Avatar, they explain how spiritually inept he was, almost,
right,
with the glass half full. Like you can't fill a glass that's already full. And he was a jarhead, and he jokes like, haha, like, I don't have anything in my glass, but that's good because he doesn't have any dogma of faith that a lot of humans have. So he was kind of open. Yeah, he didn't have any bad habits because he didn't have too much knowledge, which was kind of he was made fun of by the doctor, the scientist, for not having knowledge. But it was because of that allowed him to fill his glass with faith, which they immediately start training him, his blue little girlfriend, like immediately. Like she's like, okay, I was told by my spiritual guide to save you. And she immediately endows faith in him. And it's through this faith that he was able to actually bring the planet to his aid when he needs it, even down to the point of like a huge giant panther not eating him, who wanted to eat him earlier in the movie.
Space panther.
Saving him. So that was a beautifully portrayed aspect. In The Matrix, Neo basically returned to life just because he believed he could. He had that much faith that he
was a computer programmer who had a hard time believing that he was living in a simulation. So it's literally, for him to be able to perceive that, and he was struggling against that in the film. I think that's something to look at.
Yeah, it's your faith being tested almost.
Right.
And exactly. He had to like face this he didn't know, but he still had to pretend. With faith, I almost say like fake it till you make it, because it's kind of true. No, it's true. That's how I see it. Because if you just give your worries over to, for me, it was God, but for whoever, I mean, obviously Jake Sully put his faith in Alway. So if you give something higher than yourself, better than yourself, the ability to help you. And that's why it's good to have a spiritual connection and to go through an awakening to see what that force that's going to drive you is even going to be. And it's going to be different for everyone. And a lot of people do go to God for this. And this is why we call our faith. But basically, if you just say, okay, I'm going to allow it, like I understand, and you just jump off the ledge, that's all it takes. You never know if you're going to land the very first time you jump off a ledge. So even jumping off the ledge the first time is faking it till you make it. And making it is getting to the other landing of the next rock.
That's your point, Alexa. I like that.
Okay, so what Dune?
Dune, again, it's like these unsurmountable odds about how you can be from a completely different place and have the ability to turn something around where you had no, from your own perception, your own world, being Paul, he might not have felt like he had any right being on Arrakis, that he was, they were given stewardship of this planet. He's not from there. He has no skin in the game other than he was told to go there. But then through his own actions and who he was able to influence an entire war, really, I think a galaxy at that point, to influence it for good. And I think that's important. And being able to know that not every path that you walk, again, that theme of you're not knowing who made this path for you, but how will you carry yourself on this path? Will you help those who seek it? Will you make the sacrifices necessary? Will you be able to be courageous? I mean, yes, you're not going to have a choice. It's yes. It isn't about blindly following through or something, or faking a feeling that is there. It's just being able to go. It's an invisible force that drives all of us.
Yes, exactly. What was I going to say to that? You brought up a really good point. Oh, okay. So with Dune, it's interesting that in the beginning, if Paul, this is a good way to use discernment and practice discernment, because it matters where you place your faith. If Paul placed his faith in the women oracle witches of the space realm, then technically he wouldn't have survived the hand in the box experiment, because by science says you shouldn't be able to do this by any way, shape, or form. So thank goodness he didn't put his faith into what they said, because he was able to go through that trial.
The trend, the faith trend, that's important to bring up too. Just believing what other people believe in, because so and so believes this, I have to find a way to believe it too. I have to make this a part of my belief system. No, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
You don't always have to try and cram other people's beliefs into your belief system. Just
yes. And ironically, the people who weren't even of his people, the natives of the Dune planet, yes, they did have faith in him, because there was a prophecy. So there's always a prophecy.
Always a prophecy. There's a lot of little dreams too that Paul was having before going to Arrakis. And I just say with that aspect, because
that's true. Oh, I forgot about the dreams.
You're absolutely well, and that ties into the spiritual aspect as well, is that we're all connected, guys, whether you believe it or not. I think there's a lot more how we are connected, not to say that we're connected in every action of everyone's lives, and not that, but there's we're all kind of tuned in to each other on a frequency, then we can maybe share our thoughts and our feelings easier than we think.
Yes. And earlier you did also say, this is just popping up and it's a different movie. I know, we'll cover it again, but in Harry Potter. Hermione, she's not a witch, yet she's the smartest witch of her age. She's a muggle. Everyone forgets that. And Hermione is a human.
She's like a half witch.
No, she's not. Both parents are muggles. That's like a big thing. It's like a big part of the thing of the story is Hermione's completely muggle. Not only is she completely muggle, she wasn't even she's the smartest witch, which someone would think she's a Ravenclaw. If we put faith in the system, she would be a Ravenclaw, but she wasn't. There's something so much more to being a hero than being smart, because smart can be sold out to the highest bidder. However, having courage says, no, I'm not going to be sold out. No, I'm not going to join a contract. No, I'm not going to try to make money from this. I'm going to go against the popular belief. And that makes a Gryffindor. So the smartest witch of her age per the Harry Potter universe would have never, ever been a Gryffindor human muggle, basically. But it was. So if you put your faith in not the system and not human words or wizard words or witches words, then you find a different source to pull from, and things just work out when you pull from that source.
So Hermione's the chosen one then.
Ooh.
With that logic, Hermione's the chosen one.
That's interesting.
Born of human parents.
I love it. It's true.
It's true.
All right. See, we're getting all excited about Harry Potter. We're going to go film the next Harry Potter one. So enjoy this one. I hope we brought some wonderful
crash course commentary.
Yes.
It's really good just to start looking at these things, guys, because it's not only just the similarity in themes in movies, but there might be a message here that people are trying to get out through literature, through media, and we have to kind of pay attention to we just noticed that was fascinating. So we look forward to more comments from you guys. Please keep us in your thoughts and prayers, and we'll be back again soon.
Thank you, guys. Have a great one.
Take care.
It's okay. I can take it off. Oh. No, it's fine. Did it get our voices? Because I was going to edit.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. The main video is over. However, this is an awesome opportunity to listen to the making of this video, and a lot of friends helped out with recommendations. And to be honest, I talk about these movies a lot, but they're not even my favorite movies, and they're really hard for me to sit through, so they took a long time to really dissect, because like Paul Atreides helped me get through Dune, but like every other one, it took a while. So I actually spoke with my friend Diana, and our conversation held so much info in it that definitely went along with our series of 7 decoding messages in movies. Now we definitely go into like 40 minutes worth of just talking. So the next 40 minutes is commentary. It's not part of the main video, but it was basically some of the meat and brainstorming that went into making this video, some repeated points. So you can leave or you can stay. Have a good one. Bye. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Oh, I can hear you just fine.
Awesome.
Oh, so much better. So how was the movie?
I liked it. You know what it made me think of is so all throughout all of the movies that we see on just all the time, everything from How to Train Your Dragon to Cabin in the Woods, all of those movies, almost every movie has the same common denominator, and they all have some huge creature that controls everything from underground. And so I'm like, you know what? That I think maybe is the key to everything. I think is even like in the Bible, of course, there's Satan, and who is he? He's some big creature who controls everything underground. And
yes, we know that hell's under us,
right? And then with all the cave system and everything, it seems like that's really what we should be looking at, because like we know how to kill. Oh, and so did you see Tomorrow War?
Yes. Oh, yes, I did.
Did you? So it seems like that's kind of like what they keep trying to say is like there's one specific creature that like we know how to kill like a lot of the small ones. But
exactly. Thank you for bringing that up. It's like there's a mother bee or a hive mind control, and that is controlling everything else. And I love that you brought up How to Train Your Dragon, because the dragons themselves weren't bad. The dragons themselves were actually beneficial. They could be worked into society and help out, and they're no longer nothing is a parasite if it helps the host that it's living with. So exactly, we want to make everything a symbiotic relationship, not a parasitic relationship. And the interesting thing with the dragons is they got taken over. Like he was fine, and then he heard some kind of I don't know, like a call signal. Yeah. And it changed them, and it made them be zombies themselves to something underground. And that is so awesome that you brought that up, because the problem with our conspiracy group is you hear about the black goo, vril, whatever, everyone calls these parasites something different. I just call them parasites. But everyone sees the worms, and you just want to attack the worms. Or they hear about 9-foot-tall lizard people being, shapeshifters, and we want to attack all lizards and reptilians. But the thing is, if something is taking over what we think the bad guy is, then they're not the bad guy. There's something bigger at play.
Exactly.
Which is what Dune gets into.
Right. Well, and so then that was too. So I was talking with my daughter this morning, and everything that she reads, I read first, type of thing, because she's younger and everything. And so one of the things that we really got into is called Wings of Fire. Have you heard of them?
No, I never even heard of it.
Okay, so it's a whole dragon series, and it's really, really good. And actually, I love it too. So I'm like, woohoo, this is fun for
How cute.
But anyway, so the last book in the arc, so we're waiting for them to release a new book right now. And the last book in the arc is dealing with this prophecy. And the prophecy is, and I hope I get it right, but it says specifically, the breath of evil lives underground. And then it goes on to like detail more details about the prophecy. But I was just like, holy cow, because like we were talking about all the other stuff, and I was like, even this book, which is it's like for teenagers, kind of a teenager book, and even it talks about. And so what it is there's a hive. So there's this plant, and it breathes evil breath or something, and the one tribe of dragons is like possessed by it, basically. So it's like it goes through the queen, and then the queen is controlling all of her tribe of dragons. And then come to find out, so they thought it was just the plant, and so they burned the whole forest thinking that they would solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But then they find out that it actually lives below, and it's getting into the plants from like the roots or something. So it's something that comes from below. So
Oh my goodness. Okay.
right?
That's very interesting. That's interesting because when I was watching Dune, they talk about two different things. They talk about spice melange, and then they talk about the water of life. And I was like, are they the same thing, or are they two different things? So what I get is spice melange is a secretion that comes from all worms. If they die, like all worms die underground, then their secretion will be in the sand all around, and the bad guys, the emperor's people, go and they harvest this oil basically in the sand, and that is what they use to time travel. Well, space travel. And then, but similarly, you can use it not just for like gas, you could also get the baby worms, kill them, suck their life essence, and that'll bring immortal life, and that is called the water of life. And apparently those creepy witch women were the only ones that ever could use that. So of course they're going to be the ones that control the universe because they only are the ones that know how to use the tool, I guess.
Right.
So they're slightly different in what it's just weird to me because like the good guy, Paul, he still has to take the spice, and no man has ever lived through it. But if you
Right.
do live through it, then you will become basically awakened, and all of your DNA, I think, all that junk DNA is turned on, and you're like a full person. So
Right.
he ended up getting the worms, not only the big worms in the sand to work for him, but also the drug itself, he got to work for him to wake him up. So it's almost like in the movie, of course, everyone's scared of the big ass worms, and then
Right.
we got him to work for us.
So you know, there was a scene in that movie that I actually kind of, so again, another movie that my daughter watches, well, and me too now, is it's a Disney show, and it's called Owl House. Have you heard of that?
Oh my goodness, no, but I can see where it's going if it's owl.
Right, I know, there were so many things about it. So this is the one that I texted you about too, about the black goo and how like the bad guy.
That was from that? Okay.
Yeah, that was from that. But here's the crazy thing too. So like so the way that guy, he like has some kind of they call it a curse, and where he like starts turning into this monster, but he doesn't turn into the monster if he eats what is called he doesn't eat it, he inhales they're called, I forget, they're little creatures that are good guys, basically. They're little magical creatures. And so whenever he cracks them open and then he inhales their essence, and it was exactly the same scene from Dune when that gross guy broke open the little worm.
Exactly.
And inhaled its essence. But it was the same exact, like the scene almost looked the same as the scene in that. I don't know if they took it from that, but the whole point is like, and then if you can compare it to Doctor Strange, Dr. Sleep, in that book or in that movie, they take the special children. So like in Owl House, they're the little magical creatures. And then in Dr. Sleep, it's the special children who have special abilities. And then in that, it's the baby worms, but they're all clearly indicating that they're looking for these certain special ones. It's not just everything. It's certain special things.
That is so weird.
Yeah, it was kind of, I was like, wow, because Dr. Sleep is just shockingly like on point with the whole adrenochrome thing. Like they just laid it out there.
They have to tell us. This is them doing it.
Tell us, I know. And then when I was telling my daughter, I was like, I wonder though if some of the people, because like look at Sam, he died after Eyes Wide Shut. So you have to think, sometimes they're telling us as a plea for help, or as a, here, you guys need to be aware of these things that are going on. And then sometimes I think they're mocking us. You know what I mean? So I think it just depends. Some of them I think are trying to get the word out. And then other ones I think are, just people.
I know. That's the hardest part. And I think I do follow the Bible, and I do believe that it's the most banned and censored book for a reason. So I'm pretty sure there's truths behind it. And they say like compassion's going to be needed. Like Christ was like very adamant what's about to happen, like the Revelation time period. Like we need compassion for everyone because everyone has been
hoodwinked and made to do. I mean, the devil doesn't even play fair. Like, yes, he works in contracts, but it's always like a trick to get you. And that right there is like against free will for all these people. So even these horrible, horrible writers that we think, well, obviously they've made millions upon millions, they have to be in the club to a certain point. But if at the same token, like, they know everything, I think there is a little bit of like, they must feel bad and must want to tell us and save as many people as they can. But at the same token, like, they are still under the thumb. Like, I feel so bad for freaking, what is it called? These comics. And they straight up tell you, like, everything. We were watching, Bo Burnham is a young comic, and he straight up tells everything wrong with, like, he was a child comic, basically. And he sings about Oprah Winfrey being horrible and just basically Nazis never lost the war and we're still in a slavery type system. And he does it to where everyone laughs, but it's like, no, I'm telling you guys the truth. Like, this is it. And I'm sure we can look back at George Carlin and all these people, and they just get, it's so sad. It is so sad. But at the same token, we can take what they're telling us and we can use it regardless if they will be saved or not. Like, we can just take every piece of information, I think.
Exactly. There was this band from back in the 80s, I guess, back when, Great White and White Snake and all of those bands were really popular.
Yeah.
And my husband was really fond of this one band, and he said, and so I don't remember what the name of the band was, but anyway, so the guys were starting to get really popular, and they were all excited because everything was going according to plan, and then they got invited to, one of those meetings, and that the lead guitarist was like, no thanks, I'm out, and like walked away from it, and like, of course they destroyed his career and everything, and like, he full on lives in a van down by the river right now.
Oh, he's living the life.
Right. And he came out, and so for a while his videos were all over YouTube where he was talking about, what happened to him and what they wanted them to do and everything, and now all of his stuff has been taken down and nobody can find him anywhere, so we don't know if, he got ended or if he just went underground or what, but...
Exactly, and that's why I think that's what the problem, because whenever I think of this mafia, this 3,000-year-old cult or whatever, I kind of just say Romans. The Romans, I don't even know if that's true, but everything in our society, from Star Wars to this Dune movie to, what was I watching the other day? Exodus, which is going over the, basically, Prince of Egypt story, Moses and Ramesses, right, and the end days, and everything is like mini Rome. Even though they say it's Egypt, they still have governors. They still have, what is it called? Generals. Like, they still have armies, which is this military complex that we see today in our society running our system. And it's very Roman. So I always just say Rome. But basically, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. What was the lead-in question for this? So I mentioned about, that guy living down by the river and how he went underground. Oh, yes. Or disappeared. We don't know. Yeah, so humans, I think, when we see the buildings where a child sacrifice is usually said, if to go further, you have to do a sacrifice, or whatever the case may be, humans have the chance to say yes or no. However, I know there's something to do with selling your children into the system, and that's why, to avoid people saying no, if you have a military general and he has a child named Jared Leto, and Jared Leto somehow owns military, what is it? It's a military base in California. Like, I didn't even know civilians could own old military bases. And also, why was his dad like a general? When you go into basically all of these stars and seemingly just like, oh, they're just Hollywood stars, like, they're not just Hollywood stars. They always have like parents in Wall Street. I know Taylor Swift her parents were elite Wall Street bankers. Same with Lady Gaga. Like, they're not just nobodies, and we think they're just nobodies that made their fame. But I think what's happening, to avoid humans saying, no, I'm not going to do that, and like getting out of the business, they raise their children. So they think it's normal. They don't see anything wrong with it. And maybe the children themselves don't have a say if their parents, they were the sacrifice themselves.
Right. See, I've thought that a long time about, like, Miley Cyrus.
I know.
Because it's so obvious with her dad that he, like, sold her out big time. And that poor girl's so broken.
Poor girl, I know.
So also thinking about that with the military base thing. What was I going to say? Oh. And I think you probably know the term. So down in Antarctica, remember there was the whole Hitler thing where he went down there.
Yes.
And, okay, so this was another, like, brain blown thing I experienced last night. So, and I hate to be those people that's like connecting things to connecting things to connecting things, but sometimes they actually do connect.
That's all you have to do. I know. Go on.
So anyway, so looking at the Tomorrow War, he says that the main bad thing was in Russia, right?
Yes.
And then watching Dune last night, the name of Paul became Maudib, right? M-A-U-D is the important part.
Yep.
So anyway, so Atlanta, or in Antarctica, when Hitler went down there and he established New Schwabenland, he, where it was located at, now Russia owns that.
No way.
So then I was like, yeah. So then I was like, and Maudib. So first Norway went down there, and Queen Maud is the person who was in charge at the time when they went down there to investigate whatever Hitler had done, and so it's called Queen Maud Land. There was sailors from there that went down to Antarctica to investigate what was going on, and then it came back around. That ends up, as of right now, Russia owns New Schwabenland in Antarctica. So I just thought that was really significant because, like, that Maudib, I researched that, and then that led me to New Schwabenland again, which I've been there before, but it was just kind of funny to see like that one word where it kind of tied into the whole Antarctic thing. But then I thought about the Tomorrow War, and I was like, well, then that makes sense. It is in Russia, just not in North Russia, but in Antarctica.
Oh my gosh. I see what you're saying. The territory is still Russia, but it's in Antarctica. Oh my goodness.
So then that made all the sense in the world because I was just like, wow. So it's not in Russia, like they made it seem in the movie, but it's in a Russian territory.
What is it called? New
Schwabenland?
Schwabenland, okay.
Yeah. And it's owned by Russia now. Russia, Norway.
So do you think that Russia went and investigated what Germany was doing and
acquired it
and then told whoever will join the resistance about it?
I don't know. I kind of go back and forth because I feel like, well, I don't feel like Russian people are like American people. They're good people. Mm-hmm. And it's just there's certain people maybe in Russia that are not good people. But Admiral Byrd mentioned that the next major world war. Ow! Sorry, I have a cat, small one.
I know how that is.
They have to murder him. Anyway, Admiral Byrd said that the next major world war is going to come out of Antarctica, and so then after seeing that, Tomorrow War points us towards Russia, which all movies do. Like everybody's always like, Russia's the bad guys.
Russia. Yep, I'm dealing with that in my vampire research right now.
Yeah, so and I went there too. I was like going through, Tasmania, Ukraine, and all of that stuff, and trying to see the actual origin of the Russian mythology or the vampire mythology came from.
Well, the weird thing is, to me, this is just a side antidote. We could talk about it in this episode or another one altogether. But basically, what I'm noticing with the vampires is we always think it's Romanovs, and we think of Russian and like Romania and that area. And again, hearing if they've been saying Russia, 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 and blaming Russia, Russia, Russia on things for how many years? We see it in today's society. What if that same scapegoat has been used by these black hats for so long? How long have we been blaming stuff on Russia? Because my research shows that Vlad the Impaler went to like the Queen of Scots heritage and basically infiltrated the German royal family, which then turned into the British royal family because Queen Victoria and her husband, they were both German. They were like, and then they took over the English crown. So we think English royalty has the English crown, but it's like this weird vampire German force that has taken over the wrong part of the family. So really there's a Scottish bloodline, or we would have to look at like probably the Masonic rites in Scotland to see who here might be trying to take back that reign, because it's not the right family that has the crown right now.
Right. That was Ashley was doing a big old. Did you see all her genealogy stuff that she was doing?
A little bit, but I wasn't able to get into it.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of funny. So I met her through a group. Well, I'll go into that some other time. But anyway, and we have so many things in common and everything that we thought, well, I wonder if we're related somehow. So she was doing all this genealogy stuff, and she's been sharing it with me. and the funny thing is, so like my ancestors are also from that exact region that you're talking about. And my, some of my ancestors were royalty in Germany and in England. So like it's obvious that they, you know, or they're part of that whole thing. And it was even funny, like it's actually very recent because during World War II, there were several gun manufacturers in Germany, but 3 of them were literally my each of my grandparents. Their last names are 3 of those major gun manufacturers that were gun manufacturers for Hitler. So it was kind of crazy, like to like look back at that and see, you know, how those were all connected and everything, and then to find out about how the German thing merged into the English thing, and but my whole family is attached to that. Well, anyway, so Ashley was going through, and she was doing her thing because we were curious if we were related because of all the things we had in common, and she finds that she's actually related to that original family, and also so is Trump related to that original family, the one that's actually supposed to be in charge.
Yes, exactly, and that is so funny you said that. My last name is Eisenhower, so I'm of the Eisenhower bloodline, but it's like really far. Like I'm more closely related to like Jane Austen if we go through that line. But like technically, I'm of the Eisenhower bloodline, and my best friend, I know she knows she was related to one of the recent presidents, I think Bush or something. So it's so funny that the people that are awakening, we are like all pretty far descendants of, and obviously every president has been related to a royal, which is why we probably think that the presidents are esquires, which is probably why this is a kingdom, not so much a republic. But that's just interesting that it seems like this royal bloodline through very far ancestors are the ones that are kind of getting together and rallying.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too, because I was even looking at that and I was like, you know, I'm from a long line of revolutionaries, and so I sit back and I look at all of that, and then looking at, you know, where my bloodlines came from and everything, and then seeing what Ashley was finding with hers, and I was like, yeah, it's so weird how we're all just, it does seem like it's that bloodline that maybe, you know, is more awake than.
It is, and I'm doing the craziest thing actually happened yesterday. I'm not going to put this whole stuff in any final cut, but basically. So my best friend, she's a nurse, and she's been into all this Rh negative bloodlines, and it's not so much the Rh negative part, but it's the negative blood types. So A negative, O negative, AB negative, and basically less than 15 to 20% of the world is still a negative blood type. And why that's important is basically what makes blood types. I'm not even talking about A, I'm not talking about B, I'm not talking about the numbers. I'm talking about if it's negative or positive. If it has a positive, that means it has an antigen. And an antigen is a parasitic protein, which means you have to get a parasitic disease, and usually we have to have a fever, 103 at least. And once that happens, this antigen, this spike protein from having the parasite sickness attaches to our DNA, and it doesn't kill us. We call it immunity, and it leaves a damaged DNA. Basically, it's doing exactly what vaccines are doing, but the bad guys, basically, I think have been setting these parasites loose on civilizations every generation, and you just need to have one bad bug every 10 to 20 years to get every generation sick. And once they're sick enough, they have their blood type changes from like O negative to O positive, because now they have an antigen. So they have kids, and their kids have kids, and the whole bloodline will be positive of this antigen. But the problem is those antigens make junk DNA, and they erase data from our DNA we're finding, and they're finding that people after detoxing, their blood types are changing from A positive to A negative, or they have a lot of negative recessive genes all of a sudden.
Wow.
And I was basically doing this whole little series on it and going over my best friend's Telegram channel, and at that moment my husband and I heard the loudest sound at our front door. Something hit our front door with such force that like we could see light coming in from the other side. And my husband was like only 5 feet away, so he darted to the door. Like less than 2 seconds, he opened the door. No one was around. Our door frame was broken. That's how hard the impact happened. He went outside to try to recreate it, and he's a big guy, and he could not make the door budge to see light through it. Like
what you saw.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we got it on, I'm recording it, and you can hear it happen when I'm recording, and I go, WTF, like what? And you can hear this loud, it's horrible.
Wow. That's so crazy.
I know.
See, I always think about that. So, I watch a lot of sky-related phenomenon, and mostly part of it because, you know, I'm interested in aliens or whatnot, but also because I also think that what people think is is going to come back and rescue us is actually, I feel like it's not Jesus per se, but something that has been represented as Jesus.
I know that, sister.
Right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, so one of the things that I watch all the time, and actually I first discovered it about 7 years ago, I think. There's this thing that it's being called the disco ball planet now, but when I first found it, nobody was even knowing what it was at all. And you could go to the Sky Watch thing on your phone, the app on your phone,
yeah,
and point it up at that at the thing that I'm talking about, and it didn't even see it there. Like, it had no recognition. And this thing is loud, or not loud, it's bright, and it's kind of emanates like a weird, I think it must be EMF or something, because it gives you the same creepy feeling like if you're walking through a haunted house kind of thing.
Oh, so that's
I think
interesting.
It must be, yeah, so, but it's in the night sky, and I don't know if it's out right now, but I've seen it. Like, sometimes you'll be sitting here watching TV, and it's always out my southeast window, and I'll be sitting here watching TV, and I'll feel like somebody's watching me, and I'll look out the window, and sure enough, that star will be really brightly staring in through my window.
Oh, my goodness.
It's super creepy, and it does, why they're calling it the disco ball star planet now is because, I know I'm on the phone, is because it changes colors very rapidly, and it's not just like a little bit of changing color, like it's blatantly green and blatantly red and blatantly yellow and blatantly orange, you know, like it changes, and blatantly it changes colors like dramatically, and so you can sit there and watch it, and it's so crazy what it does. So
that's crazy. I have to hear more about it. Well, that reminds me, I wasn't even going to bring it up, but I don't know, in Awakening, a lot of people, you know, find out their path through the sex trafficking, and that usually goes hand in hand with a dig in Hollywood symbolism and how we see it all around us. And I don't know if you've noticed that all the celebrities that have definitely probably sold their souls because they're very wealthy, they all talk about the 9th planet or the 10th planet, Planet 9.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, they're all waiting for this, and I don't even know if it's the same thing as Nibiru. I don't know, but they all think their prophecy is that this planet's going to come save them. But the weird thing is that on Dune, he talks about a second moon. He keeps seeing a second moon. It's obviously not the main moon of the planet. It's this other moon that comes, and I think it's like a signal holder. I don't know what it is. I'm going to have to do some research about it and insert that later. But that's just interesting that you mentioned that, because
it kind of seemed like he drew his power from that moon.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of it, whenever he was getting ready to wake up, that he was getting that power. Like he kept calling to his dad when he was looking at that moon, you know, and he'd be like, "I'm awake now, Dad," and you know, and you could tell like he felt like that moon was
exactly.
Yeah, you know. So, but yeah, and check out that disco ball planet. Like it's actually starting to get like really, people are seeing it a lot now. But when I first, it was like, you know, like my husband and I, we've sat out there and we've watched it several times. Or like I said, just sometimes you feel like you're being watched, and you look at it. So the funny thing was, I went and I was researching it, and I went and I looked up the, you know, I was like trying to find the right terminology for it. And so finally I found a YouTube video that had somebody had recorded it, and then they said, all the comments down below, one person was like, "Oh, I have that thing too," and they were like, "It makes me feel so creepy." And I was like, I'm so glad I'm not the only one, because like whenever I see it, I totally feel like I'm being watched from that specific planet. But
that's creepy.
It's really creepy. But it's out the southwest sky. It's very bright, and it doesn't really move. But when you're watching it, it looks like it's moving around, but like not moving, not like a planet, you know, that moves across the sky. But it looks jittery.
Do you think it's closer? Do you think the planet apps aren't getting it because maybe it's in our atmosphere, not necessarily a star outside of the atmosphere?
So I thought when I first saw it, I thought something like that. We were looking at it. We were like, is that a helicopter? And then we were kind of creeped out. We're like, is it a UFO? And maybe we should be watching it from inside.
Those drones.
Right. Something like that. But the thing is like it is regular like a planet. Like it comes during a certain time of the year, and it stays like in that area where we always see it, and it does eventually move across the sky, like kind of like how Jupiter doesn't move across the sky that quickly because it's so big and it's so far away. Yeah, and so this thing is kind of the same way. Like it gradually moves across the sky, and it moves across the sky in more southwest motion because I would say degree-wise, my window that it comes up at and my window that it goes down at are about, like, say, 30 degrees, in a sky range. And it's like that. It doesn't come up straight above you in the sky. Like, it stays kind of low on the horizon where it comes up, and then where it goes back down, it stays pretty low on the horizon. But I've been seeing it for 7 years. So if it were like a drone or some kind of a man-made thing, I don't think I'd keep seeing it regularly.
Exactly. Oh, my goodness. That's crazy. What state are you in?
I'm in Kansas.
Kansas, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But some of the people that I saw were in Texas that were seeing it. People have seen it in Florida. So, like, I'm thinking you guys will be able to see it, too. And
yeah, we should.
Yeah, I have family there in Phoenix, but I've never asked any of them if they've seen it because none of them are very awake.
Isn't that funny?
Right.
There's only one of us in each family, it seems like.
It does seem that way, that's for sure.
That is so funny. I wanted to get your interpretation of one part of Dune. When he calls upon the worms, I think there was, like, they don't show it in the movie, but, like, obviously we needed to team up with the worms to stop all the spice productions, close down all the spice units. The bad guys will come to the Dune planet, and then when the worms come, it was a storm, and they talk. He says, a storm is coming, our storm, and when it arrives, it will shake the universe. Long live the fighters. And it's when basically Paul takes the water of life. He finds out he can travel interdimensionally. Everyone kind of knows that he has the power. Whoever controls the spice content controls the universe. So he realizes, like, he can't die. He awakens, and it's a huge thing because guys never done that before. So, but the main part is the storm and the electrical charge from the worms that we see. What did you take from that, especially knowing what we know with storm prophecies?
Right. I know, and that was kind of something that I was thinking about, too, because they kept saying the storm is coming, and I thought that was really ironic that they would say that. But I wonder if, I don't know, I don't know that I picked up specifically on that, and I know it's significant. I just couldn't think of anything that, from my perspective, I didn't see anything that was, branching out.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that, it's obvious that the storm is coming, and I know that, it was obviously important that the worms all did generate electricity and like that, and they did generate the storm.
True.
But I don't know, unless, I don't know, because I don't know if it's something that maybe, because I was trying to think, like I said, back at the very beginning of the conversation about the one gigantic being that probably needs to be eliminated, and I wonder if maybe it would have something to do with that.
I remember, you're right. Now, right before that happened, the big nasty worm died, and then he was able to take over. That's interesting that you say that. It's like the host entity, the hive mind, had to die before the storm came.
I just feel like that's like key to everything. So, and I didn't, I was never really thinking about that a lot, but as soon as I thought of it, like, I got the chills, and I was like, oh my God, that's the answer to everything. And it's just there. And of course, I don't have the resources for something like that. You probably don't have the resources for something like that. It's just, I really think that that's the thing that has to happen, is whatever is controlling all of that, I think is.
We know what they're using to control, and it's fear. And I'm going to read obviously the biggest fear quote, and what Paul has to recite over and over again is, I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me, and when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain.
Huh.
So it's almost like the only thing this hive mind has over us, and we're seeing it in today's society, obviously, is just fear. Fear of each other, fear of the government, fear of vaccinated people are scared of unvaccinated people. Vice versa. There's zombies. No.
Right.
Easily fixed zombies, but still zombies. Chlorine dioxide, everyone.
So, right? And that's the kind of funny thing, too. The whole, being afraid of everything. Even if you look at, and this is so stupid to even bring up, but Nightmare on Elm Street, remember the very first one? Once she wasn't afraid of Freddy, he no longer had the power to control her. Like, they show us in every single movie, like, what we need to do and what they're doing to us. It's just so weird. Like, every single movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every movie. And Monsters, Inc., they get their power from just the fear.
Right.
That's everything. Like, once you're not scared, and fear doesn't even just come from like life, like, oh my goodness, I might die. Fear comes from just being humiliated. Like, I see people not being able to use their First Amendment, which is just simply their voice, because of fear. And my husband plays this video game, and it's about a parasite that takes over your vocal cord box, and it was implanted in all humans in like Babylon. So everyone has to use this magic, which is called speaking words and spelling words and cursing words. And it basically says like English is our slaveholders' weapon against us because it can control us. And I remember awakening, it was hard to speak. Like, literally my voice would close up. My throat chakra would like close up if I was trying to speak truth, until I started detoxing. Literally would my voice not shake saying truth. And I think there is literally control over our vocal cords, which isn't even a weird thing. We know that parasites have the ability to do this in other animals and literally shapeshift them and take away their speak, which is our biggest tool. It even outranks artillery and weapons. It's the First Amendment, and it's our voice, and that is literally all you need to combat fear, I think. More importantly, and I'm the person who kills bugs, and even I'm like, you know what? Let's kill fear over so much bugs.
Right. Mm-hmm. See, and that makes perfect sense, because I'm like that too. Whenever, even like this, with this conversation that you and I are having, I mean, I'm stuttering and I'm not like that articulate or anything, and it's so frustrating, because I know, like, even when I try to talk to other people, and like, I can talk with my husband because he thinks the same way I do, but as far as like other people are concerned, it's the same way. Like, it's hard for me to articulate what I want to say and how I want to say it, and, you know, and say it in a way that's informative, and, you know, where they'll actually listen to me, because my best friend is kind of going through a bad thing right now, and I feel like if I could explain things to her well, I maybe could save her life, but at this point, maybe not. But
first of all, let me say you have spoken absolutely beautifully, and this has been such a free-flowing conversation. I feel very safe, and I completely understand everything you're saying. So, like, bravo, you are a wonderful communicator and storyteller. But also, it's funny, because the people that are awakening, we're going to be the introverts of society, we're going to be the autists of society, we're going to be the black sheep of society, and that's going to just also lend us to not being part of the social. We're all going to be basically the awkward ones that say the wrong things when you're talking to people. Like, that's what I've noticed in this awakening movement, is we're all literally the black sheep. And it goes to, like, even talking to people. They look at me and they're like, you're so cute, but I don't understand what you're saying. And all my old friends are like, okay, Lexi's gone in the deep end. And it's just so funny. But at the end of the day, like, everyone knew me on Twitter because not one of my posts had all the words spelled correctly. I am dyslexic beyond belief. Like, I type so fast that my mind can't keep up. And, like, there was just a war on, literally, it sounds crazy. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but you would write out a post and Twitter would, I don't know if it was like Samsung or Twitter, but my words would be misspelled on purpose. To like and everyone talked about it. Like, everyone had screenshots or like screen recordings of us writing words, and it would change, like, autocorrect, even though it was spelt completely right. So then, like, most of my
to discredit you.
Yeah, it discredits you. You look stupid. You look crazy. You're not spelling anything right. And then it's just like, okay, like, this is hilarious. They're trying to take away our credit. Like, it's just funny. So,
you know, I started to tell you this yesterday when my phone was breaking up, which is ironic that my phone was breaking up when I was telling you this. But, so in the old Roswell movie, and I'll try and Google it while I'm telling you this so that I can tell you which Roswell movie. If you get a chance to watch it, you should watch that.
I should, yes. I'm writing it down.
So what happens, there's one specific scene in this movie. It's from 1994, and it has, I'm trying to find who the famous guy in it is. Anyway, I won't do that while we're talking, but the main thing that is the one thing I took away from that movie, the main thing I took away from that movie is that there's a scene where the main guy, who's Jesse Marcel is his name, and he's played by Kyle MacLachlan.
Yes. And
Martin Sheen is this CIA guy, and he's very evil.
Of course Martin Sheen's the CIA guy.
And very evil.
That's funny. Go on.
So they're in this big empty airplane hangar, and Kyle McLaughlin is telling him, he's like, well, this is what I know, because he was the military guy who found the piece of the Roswell aircraft and had it in his home, and he was on the site, he saw the aliens and all of this stuff, and so he spent years trying to tell people about it, and everybody was just like ignoring him and calling him a conspiracy theorist and everything. So then he ends up meeting Martin Sheen in this airplane hangar towards the end of the movie, and he tells Martin Sheen what he knows, and Martin Sheen's like, that's okay. He goes, you can go ahead and tell everybody what you know. He goes, we don't care. He goes, because we've infiltrated your conspiracy theory group. We've put lots of flat earthers or whatever, all of the crazy ones. Mm-hmm. He's put all of those people in that group. He goes, and we've lumped all of you together. You're all conspiracy theorists. He goes, so that way, he goes, when some of you are right and you do discover the truth, he goes, nobody's going to listen to you because you're conspiracy theorists and you're in the same group with all of the crazy people. So. Exactly.
It's brilliant. It is brilliant what they did.
It is brilliant. Yep.
And also the good news is, because like everyone's always worried about like no one's going to be able to handle the truth. But the truth is we all know, even the people who aren't awake and grew up in bad families, everyone's seen the, Avatar, like mafia movies. Like we all know what's going on. So it's almost like, yes, it's going to be a shock to realize they're all real. But at the same token, we all know the stories so well that it's almost like not a shock.
That's what I think too. And that's why I was actually shocked about what happened in November, but I won't mention that. But, because we all know that corruption exists. But
But you have to show them.
Yep.
You have to show them.
You have to show them. So, yeah, that's kind of crazy. It's so weird how all of it just ties together. And
it is. And can we talk about how much Kyle MacLachlan looks like a certain Kennedy?
Oh, he does, doesn't he?
He really, really does.
Right?
I mean, it's just a brown hair, but like with Dune, the sleeper has awakened. Like that literally looks like Junior. The hair, the storyline too, like his dad died and his dad knew what had to happen, but his dad couldn't do it. So he had to fulfill this exodus of slaves that his dad started. And it's just very interesting.
Right. He was in Dune, wasn't he?
Yeah. So Kyle MacLachlan was in Dune and Roswell.
What a coincidence.
I know. He's so cute.
Right.
I was looking for Dune little outfits for my husband. I'm like, let's do that for Halloween.
Right. Hey, baby.
How funny.
That's funny. I did not even put that together until you said that. Holy cow.
I know. Well, I just got done watching him, so it popped up. I was like, yep, I just looked him up.
That's so funny. I didn't even think about it. Wow, what a coincidence.
That's so funny. Oh, well,
there
thank
are no
you.
So.
This is just so funny, and there's so much that we can go on. And like I have to connect with you with another movie that we can go over. And I'm going to watch this Roswell before we talk next too.
Yeah, watch that. And actually, I'm going to watch it again because now knowing stuff. Because like last time I watched it, I was, probably 10 or 15 years ago. So now I have to watch it again too to see what stuff I missed.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Also, just look at a synopsis about the Wings of Fire.
Wings of Fire.
The dragon novels that talks about the underground, because they touch on everything. They've got the hive mind. They've got where even the head hive mind person isn't even the one in control, and how it's like something, the breath of evil lives below. So it was that was shocking to me too. My daughter brought it up and I was like, wow, I didn't even think about that.
It is. And none of us know, I think that's a very important part of this spiritual warfare. None of us know what the enemy is. We're just getting, we're guessing what the shadows on the wall are. And the shadows on the wall are like finger puppets trying to scare us. So we have no idea what our true enemy looks like. I do know that there are evidence of tools being used on humans. Obviously, I am from the anti-parasitic department and biohacking department of all this. But at the same token, I was watching Dune and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's horrible. If he has to have the spice of life, that means he ate a baby worm. But then I realized that a lot of my regimen for biohacking myself is actually putting good worms in us called enzymes and probiotics. And they don't die because I eat them. They actually go into my intestines and they start eating away at the mucoid plaque and all this harmful stuff. And sure, they'll use some of my resources, but they work hard too. And that is what cleans us up. And I feel so good, even if I don't do any antiparasitics for a week or so, as long as I have my enzymes and my probiotics, I'm good. And it's almost interesting because I'm ingesting worms technically, but they're not bad. So that was very interesting too.
So there is there's a bacteria or parasite that lives in the soil, and I'm trying to remember what they're called, and I just drew a complete blank. But
I remember Gettysburg had a parasite that actually saved everyone because they would have got gangrene in any other circumstance from their battle wounds. But it was so cold that this fungus parasite got into all of their wounds of the soldiers, and it kept any bad bacteria from forming. So, like, all of these soldiers and it had this bioluminescence to it. So, like, all these soldiers survived technically because of a parasite.
Right. So, and that's the thing, and I'll have to look it up and we can talk about it next time too. But, so right now there's, in the farming communities, they've launched this big old huge information war basically against a certain kind of bacteria or they're microbes that live in the soil. And there's good ones and there are bad ones, and I'll have to think of the name between now and next time we talk. But the thing is like the government has launched this big huge thing about it, and they're like, here you have to kill all of these microbes that are destroying your roots and stuff like that. But the funny thing is they're calling them just all of them in general, but there's the one specific kind has good ones and bad ones. And so the good ones actually kill the bad ones. And so, like, people who are into regenerative farming know that you want to promote the growth of the good ones, of course, because they kill the bad ones, and you don't have to put any chemicals into the ground.
Exactly. It's literally like soldiers that are their size.
Exactly. And so it's so crazy, but I have to find the stupid word to tell it to you, but I'll tell it to you later. But that's kind of the crazy thing, too, is, like, we do have to, like, there are beneficial parasites, and there are beneficial things like that. It's
and if they're beneficial, they're no longer parasites. That's
exactly.
They're at that point a helper, symbiote, and it's helping with us. And that is ultimately, I think, how we can win this war inside of us. Also, just getting light, because basically I take antiparasitics, and one of them is just oxygen. Basically, it's like hydrogen peroxide, but it's chlorine dioxide, which means when it gets into our bloodstream, it's just releasing the oxygen, and that's what's killing these bad bugs. However, it doesn't kill good bugs. Good bugs can have oxygen. That doesn't kill them. So, of course, we do need to put probiotics because usually enemas are being done during these times. So, of course, enemas are going to get rid of everything, good and bad. But if you're just taking like an oxidizer, then technically the good bugs don't even die, which makes me think these bad bugs are metal and probably not organic life forms.
Oh, because they rust?
Because they rust, and that's what's killing them. I don't think they're organic.
That makes good sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that microbe that I was talking about is called a nematode. So they have beneficial nematodes and they have bad nematodes, and the bad ones, so the government is going, oh, you got to kill all the nematodes in your soil, blah, 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 so spray all of this chemicals. And so me living like in the heartland of America, I just see them just spraying this stuff everywhere, and it's so awful. But
that's
it's
disgusting.
like that. People just don't understand how Mother Nature did it right the first time. We need to stop screwing it up. But
she did. She knows what she's doing. Our bodies know what they're doing even. Like our body, we don't need, if our bodies were running correctly, and that goes into antigens, and that goes into reversing these parasitic proteins left on our DNA, which would change our blood types altogether. But that would make our bodies be able to identify the bugs that are the bad bugs in us that have metal in them or on them. Because even the bad bugs, even if they don't have metal in them, they just grab all of our aluminum, carry it around, and then they can't be viewed by our white blood cells. They can't be seen, and then the white blood cells won't kill them. But if they could, the white blood cells would be all on that and doing its job. Our body would be working, but right now it's just not. It's made not to work.
Huh. And that's weird, too, that they're using aluminum for that, too, because aluminum doesn't rust. So you actually have to find the other chemicals that remove aluminum. And, so I don't know if this has anything to do with the worm thing, but you know what? On batteries in cars, you use baking soda to neutralize the acid that destroys the aluminum in your car. So what happens in your car, like on your water pump, the flow of electrolytes from the antifreeze flows through, and it creates an electric charge that actually eats away the aluminum on your water pump. That's why most water pumps fail.
Oh my goodness.
So it's kind of funny. That's actually that's what destroys aluminum is it gets eaten away by electrolytes.
I was going to... Okay, so that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I have to ask my husband to clarify that because I know what I'm trying to say and I'm not saying it right.
So would that be something like the Rife machines or the Zapper machines? And that's saying to get rid of heavy metals. That's a big part of the Hulda-Clark's parasite protocol is these little electronic devices you put on your energy points and like meridians, and it pulses light and energy.
I think so. That sounds exactly right, because that's what this is basically. It's like electrolysis that happens in your water pump, because there's the flow of the water that goes through the water pump, and it causes electrical shocks. So that eats away the aluminum parts of the water pump, and it's through electrolysis. So if that's an electrolysis type of system, then I bet that's exactly what it's for.
I bet
getting rid of the aluminum.
That makes sense. And then, of course, every what is it called? It looks like, I'm looking it up as we speak now, chlorine dioxide also works as a chelator, and it's actually grabbing stuff. So some people say it doesn't corrode it or oxidize the aluminum at all, but it'll grab it and move it out.
Okay.
So that's another way that it's happening. But a lot of people still add zeolites to their cleanse, TRS spray, carbon 60, and these are actual, it's not a chemical reaction, it's actually a physical item that is either sticky or has a lot of spikes on it, and it acts as like those trash picker-uppers that like inmates use on the highway, and it grabs all the aluminum, and you'll see those coming out of your skin. So it's not chemical at all. It's literally like bouncers grabbing the aluminum, throwing it out of your pores, of your hair follicles, and you do see that during detox.
I see. So here, I just pulled up this, what does electrolysis do to aluminum? And this is the system that I'm telling you about, because like it happens in radiators and water pumps and all of your in your vehicle. And it says, oh well, that's not a good article. Never mind. That one didn't tell us anything at all. Oh, but it talks about. I'll just have to read this and get back to you on that. I don't want you to have to listen and wait while I research it. But,
no worries. I'm researching too. And Rife treatment, which I was talking about earlier, which is huge in the detox community. Rife treatment works by finding the frequency of the condition. Impulse of the frequency is then used to disable diseased cells. And they call it electromagnetic therapy.
Okay.
Interesting.
That is interesting. So it says here, aluminum oxide needs to be in a molten form to extract the aluminum ions. And so it's dissolved in molten cryolite, so that when electricity flows, the aluminum ions from the aluminum oxide are formed at the negative cathode, and then they sink to the bottom because they're heavier than the cryolite solution. So on the other hand, the oxygen from the aluminum oxide forms at the positive anode and reacts with the carbon of the graphite to form carbon dioxide. I don't know what any of that means.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm going to have to research this some more, because I know that it works, because that's one of the things that keeps my husband in business. So
yeah,
I have to research more about what you're saying. So
that's so interesting.
Right? It is interesting. It's so crazy.
I love all this. And it's funny that I always go to, whenever this detoxing or biohacking, it's always comparing our bodies to either a vessel or a programming computer, or for me, I always say pool or fish tank, because literally we're 75% water with the motor.
Right.
So it's just so interesting to see all these different things in our society be ran very similar to us.
And slightly less efficiently, yeah.
Yeah.
That is funny. That's whenever I explain things to people about, so my kid has Asperger's, and so whenever I explain to people about her functionality issues and stuff like that, I always compare it to cars. So it's kind of the same way, like how you compare it to a fish tank, because like cars are the same way, they're basically set up the same way as a human body, only of course they're made out of metal, but
exactly. We got pumps.
Right. We do, and we do have, just like that, cars use water, they use electricity, they have to be fed, they have to be, they have to have all the right ingredients.
Exactly. That is just so funny.
Isn't it? That is crazy. Well, I'll research this some more, and then I'll get back to you on that about.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed talking to you. It was a blessing. Thank you so much. I'm going to take little bits of this, and I could probably do even 2 different shows. We covered so many different little topics.
Right.
Oh, thank you so much, Diana. Is there anything else you wanted to cover?
No, I think that's all for right now. That just made me think of a whole bunch more things that I have to go and research now. So
I love it. That's awesome.
Right.
Oh, well, thank you so much, hon. I'm going to be putting this together, and I will be sending you a link probably by Wednesday.